Betrayal can shatter even the strongest alliances, even among superheroes. Today, we're going to talk about Justice League Unlimited #1, and so far, it's looking like it's going to be a great series. It also could really shake things up in the DC universe. The most intriguing part about it is a twist ending that could just destroy the whole thing before it even gets started. But before we get to that, if you have not read it and you don't want it spoiled, then pause, like this video, subscribe, and come back later because we're going to break down the whole thing. Spoilers are ahead. All right, Mark Waid, Dan Mora. It's what you'd expect. It's fantastic. The writing, I won't say it's perfect. There are a couple of areas where it kind of drags, maybe some unnecessary exposition as they're touring the Watchtower. The art is just good from start to finish. It's Dan Mora's got kind of like a angular style a bit, which I really like. I've said before, I like something, there's like a certain something that I can't really quite put my finger on it, maybe because it's different for every artist. I guess I just like them to have a distinct style, and he does. So in my opinion, it is as close to perfect as you can reasonably expect from a debut. And as we know, this is not your standard Justice League of the past. They now have an open door policy, and every hero who stands, or at least says they stand for good, can join. That comes with its own risks, and it looks like we're going to see the consequences of those risks sooner rather than later. In DC All-In Special #1, that was kind of where we saw the beginning of the league expanding, and it was even more exposition. There was about half of the All-In Special was just very, really dragged. It just seemed like, what are we doing here? I felt like I was watching an infomercial for some superhero team or something. It's very, very dry. But now we're moving into the actual business of superheroing, and they're tackling threats like this mystery group Inferno in South Africa. There's these strange creatures in the rainforest of Costa Rica. And as on its own, that's already pretty exciting, right? But of course, this is Mark Waid, and apparently he wants to kick it up a notch. So by the end of it, there's quite a bit of trouble brewing. So we start out the issue, we see that Star Sapphire is with Superman, and Wonder Woman and some of these other more, Superman and Wonder Woman being kind of like the big names you expect, but then also other heroes like Black Lightning are there, some of these people who don't get as much attention. And from there, we see Airwave, who is working up the courage to go to the Watchtower. And finally, he gets up his nerve, goes in there, gets taken on a tour by the Flash, which is kind of weird. Flash just grabs him by the shoulders. Sometimes Flash says he's got to cradle you or piggyback you, but then sometimes he'll just grab you by the shoulder and transport you halfway around the country. What's up with that? Anyway, they go on a high-speed tour. I'm not really sure if Airwave somehow has some kind of power that would actually let him see all that stuff at high speeds, but that is neither here nor there. So he goes and he wants to get involved in this South Africa fight. There's just tons of people being injured, being killed, and he wants to help. They say that he doesn't really have the powers for that, which makes sense. I mean, he can turn into energy and he can do stuff with radio waves, and I'm not really sure that had much of a place, and neither did the rest of them. Or I should say the rest of them didn't think that either, but somebody gets hurt. They're almost dead, but not. And Star Sapphire says she's got a power. She can bring him back to life if she has somebody who loves him. And so they deploy Airwave, and he helps. He transmits her, the guy's wife, through her phone. And it's a cool moment. But all that falls apart in the final cliffhanger, and the issue ends with not one but three major teases that I find they're keeping me interested, very compelling in my view. First, you see Inferno declares that the Justice League already belongs to them. They are not worried. Superman says something like, I guess you didn't hear the news. We're all huge now. And they say, well, we don't care. We got your number. And then Batman and Blue Beetle, they're fighting those monsters I mentioned, and there's tons of them. And they say, we need some help, and send some, Batman says, send some hitters. So they're in some trouble. What's going to happen to Batman and Blue Beetle? And finally, in the most shocking twist of all, Airwave, that guy who most people, especially casual fans, haven't even probably heard of. You might have even thought they just made him up for this issue. He reveals that his mission is to kill the Justice League. And that's the real shocker. He's a guy who, he, in a way, I thought was kind of maybe positioned to be a cool new member of the team. He has some potential. He's not they can always do things with your powers. Flash used to just be fast, and now all of a sudden he's got the speed force. He can do all kinds of stuff. But they set him up in absolute power. He had some moments, he teamed up with Mr. Terrific. He did some stuff. He helped out against Waller. Now this throws everything into chaos. Why would he do it? Is he being manipulated? Is he involved with this group Inferno? And maybe that's why they feel like they know everything and aren't really worried about whatever Superman's talking about? Or does he have his own reasons? Or does he have maybe like a brainworm or something? The issue doesn't give us any answers, or as far as I could tell, any clues, but the suspense is enough to keep us hooked. It's kind of makes you question their security protocols. Seems like they ought to start doing some background checks or something. Maybe have new applicants answer a few questions while they're holding the lasso of truth before you give them their little membership card and a key to the headquarters. It's almost unrealistic. Like, are they going to be that dumb that they're just going to just let everybody in? And maybe in the All-In special, they acted like these cards had all kinds of tech in them. Maybe that was supposedly, maybe they'd find some way to make that a catch-all thing to explain this potential plot hole. Whatever. I think Airwave fans, if there are any Airwave fans out there, the twist might be a bit of a bummer to you. Airwave's always been a bit of an underdog, an underused hero who has unique skills and something of a legacy. He's related to Hal Jordan. He's got that, started showing up in absolute power. And it looked like he was going to be some kind of hero involved in DC Comics going forward. And maybe that could still happen. Maybe we're going to find out that maybe this isn't really him, or maybe there's that brainworm thing or whatever, and they save him and they go from there. Or, he was crying. Maybe he's not happy. Maybe somebody's blackmailing him. But do you care if he is a big part of the DC universe going forward or not? I don't find him that compelling. I'll be okay either way. So Justice League Unlimited, #1, everything you want in a flagship DC title. I am looking forward to reading this and seeing where it goes. I was very impressed with Mark Waid's ability to have all these superheroes. You see, there's got to be at least 20, 30 superheroes at least make an appearance. And it doesn't feel too busy or chaotic in any way other than okay, here's a war. That's a little chaotic. But it doesn't, the story doesn't feel like there's too many heroes. And he seems to do a good job of focusing the story in different areas, sort of putting a spotlight where it needs to be on the heroes that we care about, and while also sort of bringing in some other heroes. Hopefully, this will lead to a bunch of other solo series for some of these heroes that we haven't maybe seen in a while. So great writing, great art, more than enough cliffhangers to get you excited about the next issue. This coming betrayal, or maybe they'll figure it out and stop it. But that really raises the stakes. You got a guy in your headquarters. They've given him a room, it appears, and he wants to kill all of you. Can the team survive this betrayal? I assume that they'll figure it out, although at one point it looked like maybe Mark Waid had gotten tired of writing comics, so maybe he'll decide to just end it all for the Justice League. What do you think? Is this the beginning of the end? Is Airwave really a villain? Is there more to this betrayal, or upcoming betrayal. Let me know your theories in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe and join us on Discord. I'll put the link in the description.